Yeah, I'm not gonna make y'all wait very long today. The reason I did that the other day is I had some other people that were interested on being on the live show, and I was making sure I fit in their schedule, and we had a time zone difference that I wasn't aware of. I should have been aware of, but I wasn't. So yeah, uh, I don't have any planned guests on today. I had one in mind, but our schedules didn't quite match up quite right, so it's fine. But we're going to go live anyways. I said I was going to, and college football is the talk of the town right now. Conference realignment, of course. We know USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten set off a firestorm of theories and suspicions and rumors, and I was on the front lines, guys. I was right there with them. And it's crazy once you get plugged into the college football world, all the different angles that get hit you in the face. I have people texting me and messaging me and calling me almost 24/7 about, hey, did you hear this? Hey, look at this headline. Hey, look at this. Hey, look at that. And I'm just like trying to, it's kind of difficult to narrow it down to what I want to say. So right now, content is there. There's no problem with content. The problem is actually narrowing it down and trying to figure out exactly, well, which one of these do I want to talk about? Do I want to talk about this, and this, or do I want to, try to put it all together and summarize it the best way I can? So, it's strange. I love it, but the most difficult part about it is just trying to figure out exactly what you want to talk about. So, I do the best I can with it. I know sometimes I make videos that don't exactly jive with certain people, but it's my opinion. It is what it is. We are not, I repeat, we are not clickbaiting over here. And y'all know that. Y'all loyal subscribers know that. We got trollers. We got people that hating on the channel. That's fine. Call me clickbait dude all you want. Actually, that just brings more attention to Golden Blue Dude. So, hey, that's fine with me. But the video that I made earlier, I did kind of, address that a little bit, trying to straighten people out because that word gets used a lot, and most people aren't understanding what they're talking about whenever they say that. Whenever they label a channel clickbait, well, clickbait is just trying. It's not one video, and you are giving out your opinion. You title it accordingly, and yes, you are trying to get views and clicks, but clickbait is actually those things. Whenever you go online, whether it's Facebook, a Facebook group, Facebook itself, or different websites, and it says this happened, you won't believe what happens next. Click here to find out, and it gives you some more information. But then at the bottom, it's like, but wait till you see what happens next, and you click on that, and it gives you more information. But wait till you see what happens next, and it keeps going and going. Yeah, I've learned my lesson on those things. But not gonna lie, I have been sucked into those, click for the next answer, click for the next answer, and it keeps going down the rabbit hole. And yeah, it's that's clickbait. And on top of that, if you title your videos a certain title and you don't talk about what's in your title, that is clickbait. That's called a bait and switch. You're baiting your viewers because of the title, but you're not talking one word or maybe just a little bit of it, and the rest is about something completely different. So that's what clickbait is. But for some reason, it's kind of stuck with me, and people are wanting to label me that. I like this comment right here, by the way. Thank you, Paxton. Isn't that the point of YouTube? Yeah, giving your opinion and what you think might happen. Predictions, season predictions, stuff like that. Yeah, it is, especially in college football. That is most definitely the whole point of YouTube. So that's a great comment right there. I'll try to keep reposting the link for StreamYard. It's at the top. I put it in the comment. I should have put it in the description of the video, but I wasn't thinking, typical me. Don't think ahead sometimes. But if you scroll up, there's a link to the StreamYard. That's what we'll call it here, StreamYard. StreamYard is at the top. If you don't want to be on camera, that's fine. But if you want to join me, I will need to see your face briefly, and then you can turn your camera off, and I'll put you on. and we can talk that way. If you want to support the show, through Super Chat, it's that $ down there at the bottom right-hand corner. You have any questions for me? If you Super Chat, I will highlight your comment. Whatever you write in the Super Chat, I will highlight it. I will put it on the screen. I will address it, say who it's from, answer the question the best I can. If you want to troll me, hey, it doesn't matter. I'll still put it on the screen because you're supporting the channel. So anything in Super Chat, I will put it on the screen and I will address whatever you put in the comments. And then there's the main way, if you don't want to do it that way, and that's just hit the like. I try to remind everybody about every 15, 20 minutes to hit the like button. It's not for a pat on the back for whoever the creator is. All it does is it helps the video hit the YouTube algorithm, gets the video suggested more, and more people see it, click on it, and boom, that's how you grow a video. So I try to remind people every 20, 25 minutes, something like that, maybe every 15 minutes, to please hit the like button. It helps the video more than you realize, people. So if you would do that, I would greatly appreciate it. If you don't want to do Super Chat or PayPal or any of that other stuff, hitting the like is the easiest way, and it's simple, fast, easy, and free. So there you go, guys. From what I'm hearing, of course, my main topic has been conference realignment, but what I'm hearing is that the Big Ten and the SEC are closing expansion doors. So it looks like they're going to stand pat for the 2022 season. We all know that's probably going to reopen by 2023 if it doesn't reopen before the 2022 season. Maybe there's some negotiations going on behind closed doors that we don't realize, and they're just saying, hey, we're closing our doors right now. We don't want to expand anymore, because the ultimate goals of all these conferences is to get to at least 20 teams. I'm thinking 24 teams, because there's going to be different phases when it comes to conference realignment. I think the ultimate goal will be, and the ultimate result will be, the Big Ten and the SEC getting to whatever number it is, whether it's 24, 32, 30, 25, I don't know. Whatever that number is, eventually they will break off and create their own league, create their own rules, create their own governing body, and create their own way of enforcing their rules, because the NCAA is most definitely outdated. Now, the NCAA will still govern college basketball. That's why they call the big dance the NCAA tournament, because that's money made by the NCAA for the NCAA. A lot of people don't understand how basketball works. It's a little bit different than college football. That's why Kansas would not be a part of something like that, because yes, they're great for basketball, but not very good for college football. So I'm not so sure about Kansas. Finally got your internet?
I finally got internet, man. Finally.
Oh, nice. We have Tony, trying to pronounce his last name, Manzano.
Oh, Manzano?
Yeah.
Yeah, seen that.
It's
giving me the option. It's giving me the option to add him to the screen, and
yeah, I mean that's fine.
Me and you must be
I just need Tony. I just need you to see your face real quick, and then you can turn your camera off, and we'll put you on. What's the limit that we want to set on this? We don't want to. All right, I got you, buddy. I got you. You can turn it off now. I got you. What's the limit that we want to set for this if we allow people in? I don't think we should have any more. I would say 4 at a time, and then we can rotate.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think
you might want to. Yeah, there you go. You're unmuted. What's going on, Tony?
Hey, Golden Blue, dude. I'm a loyal listener to your. I'm the Miami fan that always comes into your chat talking about I want West Virginia and the ACC. Remember?
I remember, buddy. I really do.
Yeah, and honestly, this whole for me the whole thing, this whole expansion talk is so confusing to me, because there's so many rumors. You don't know what's true and what to believe and stuff. Some of it's BS, some of it's true and stuff like that. And when it comes, in your guys' honest opinion, when it comes to this expansion talk, does it make more sense for Oregon, and Stanford to go to the Big Ten or the ACC if they go to a different conference?
I think that depends on what the Big Ten wants to do. If the
In
Big Ten
terms of
wants,
how they align, like in terms of how their programs align with the conference, like in terms of academics
okay,
and sports and stuff
I
like that.
got you. Yeah. As far as academically and culturally and traditionally and sports and all that stuff, Oregon and Washington most definitely align with the Big Ten, 100% the best. But if the Big Ten turns them down, then would they be willing to go to the Big 12? Or I've heard that the ACC is also interested in those teams out west. That's one of the reasons why Utah is kind of hesitating on joining the Big 12 right now. That's an important move for the Big 12. It hurts West Virginia because we're on the east side, and it hurts Cincinnati, and it hurts UCF. But as far as the Big 12, it is in their best interest to get Oregon and Washington. But where they fit the best as far as Oregon and Washington goes, that would be the Big 10, without a doubt. Would you agree, Joey?
If the Big Ten did, if Notre Dame, this all hinges if Notre Dame goes to the ACC.
Yes.
Like,
right.
If Notre Dame goes to the ACC, do you think Oregon, Washington, and Stanford follow Notre Dame, or they still go to the Big Ten? In your honest opinion.
All right, I want to let Joey.
They'll go to the Big Ten. There's more money in the Big Ten. They're going to go to the Big Ten. Plus, the Big Ten is more in line with what they want to accomplish, not athletically, but academically. The Big Ten kind of works together. They put all their resources together, and so that's what they're used to doing in the Pac-12 as well. So yeah, USC and UCLA are going to the Big Ten. There's no doubt about that. They're not going to change. They're going to stay with the Big Ten. Now, as far as Oregon and Washington going to the ACC, I'm personally, I think the Pac-12 is going to add San Diego State and either SMU or Fresno State or somebody. Probably San Diego State and SMU. And then when they add them to, I think they might come and try to raid the Big 12 and try to get Houston and somebody else. Now, if that happens, then what's the Big 12 do at that point? So
right.
That's what I worry
about. The reason why I asked about Joey, the reason why I asked about Oregon and Stanford, Oregon, Stanford, and Washington going to the ACC is because if Notre Dame goes, Golden Blue Dude said there was a rumor that NBC might buy the grant of rights from ESPN for the ACC and stuff like that. Is that still gonna do you think that still happens or no?
That all depends on if the SEC lawyers can figure out a way to break those grant of rights, because the NBC can't come in unless those grant of rights are voided. Otherwise, it's ironclad, and ESPN still owns the rights till 2036. If they can find, and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what kind of loophole could be in there. What I do know is the magic number, as far as numbers are concerned, to get that ACC grant of rights voided would be 8. You need 8 votes, or get it down to 8, and they just all agree, hey, we want to disband. So the magic number to get that ACC grant of rights voided would be 8. Now, are there other loopholes? I'm sure there are, and I'm sure the SEC lawyers are looking into it to try to figure that out. So we'll see, if that happens. And then, and only then, if the grant of rights are voided, can NBC and Notre Dame come in and get exclusive TV rights. And I do think that if the SEC lawyers are able to do that, that NBC and Notre Dame will try to get exclusive TV rights and then try to get some teams out of the Big 12. I wanted to recognize the $25 super chat from Vanny Rose. Greatly appreciate you supporting Golden Blue through that super chat. Says Oklahoma State and Baylor, Washington with Oregon and Utah. After that, both conferences had a team go 8-5 and 2 go 7-6. Next two on the top 3 named brands are in the pack. West Virginia, Washington, and Colorado. They're so clearly peers. So he's talking about how close team. how much closer teams really are than what we realize. And we have an SEC fan in StreamYard with VicTube.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask VicTube something with the SEC perspective. Who do you think? Well, not who do you think. I'm going to get just your opinion, not who you think, but who do you want the SEC to get out of the ACC?
Okay, so how many teams can I pick?
We're going to go. Well, I'm hearing they're going to do waves of 4. So your first 4.
4, I guess. Probably. I guess. I probably guess Clemson, Wake Forest, Miami, and North Carolina.
Say that again.
Now, why Wake Forest?
Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and North Carolina.
Okay, I thought you said Wake Forest the first go around.
No.
Okay.
I did too.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people think that because Wake Forest had a really good season last year, that bumps up their value in the ACC. It absolutely does not. If you look at their history, they have a very, very low enrollment. I know that's not their fault. It's just their academic standards. Their football facilities are bottom of the barrel in the ACC. Their stadium holds under 40,000. And they have absolutely no atmosphere. I don't think they bring anything to anybody. No offense to Wake Forest fans. It is what it is. Y'all had a great season last year, and I'm not talking trash about that. I'm just stating facts. Wake Forest would be a terrible, terrible grab. That's why I asked you to repeat yourself, because I thought you said Wake Forest. I was like, no.
Yeah, that's what I.
Absolutely not. Yeah, so
that'd be
That's
crazy.
what I thought.
I think Wake Forest is like the smallest stadium in the Power 5. So
Yeah,
But you do not.
I'm not sure if it's Wake Forest or Washington State, or it might. I think it's actually Oregon State. I think Rozier is like 37, but it might be Wake Forest. I can't say that with confidence, but off the top of my head, I think it's Rozier, or however you pronounce the state, it's Oregon State. It's really, really small, and that's why Oregon State and Washington State, their only chance is to either jump to the Mountain West or hope that the Pac-12 and the Mountain West merge, because they also bring Nova. And the problem with Washington State and Oregon State, because I want people to understand that I'm not picking on them. It's number one, they're out in the middle of nowhere. They're out on the West Coast, and they're not your Oregon. They're not your Washington. They're not your USC. They're not your UCLA. They don't bring enough to where you're like, okay, I know you're way out west, but you have a huge brand, you have a huge TV market. We're going to take a chance and bring you in anyways. I think those two fan bases in particular are screwed probably the most. I might actually do a video on this, on what fan bases might be screwed the most from all these moves. And I think right up there at the top will be Oregon State and Washington State.
yes.
Do you guys think Cal follows Oregon State and Washington State to the Mountain West if no one wants them?
If no one wants them, yes, they will most definitely join the Mountain West, but they're probably going to hold off some last minute hope. And if they do get into a Power 5 conference, it would be the Big 12. I do see some upside in Cal for the Big 12. You're stretching your footprint to the state of California. That's never a bad thing. The only problem is Cal is like the bottom of the barrel when it comes to brands in the Power 5. They're under UCLA and they're under USC, but I mean, as of right now, they're a Power 5 team. So I don't know if they're willing to take a chance on that or not. Just by strictly having a footprint in the state of California. Personally, I don't think so. I do think Oregon and Washington would be worth it, and that hurts West Virginia, but I don't think Cal would be worth it. Not at all.
Yeah, and for me, realistically, I see those. I see Washington, Oregon, and Stanford. Notre Dame and West Virginia decide to go to the ACC. I see those three teams following Notre Dame and West Virginia to the ACC and not going to the Big Ten, realistically, because I I really don't think the Big Ten, realistically, they would actually get Cincinnati over. For me, I would think they would get Cincinnati and bring them into the Big Ten to have Ohio State and Cincinnati be the in-state rivals in the Big Ten and stuff. I would see them go after Cincinnati first over Washington and Oregon, in my honest opinion.
Well,
No way.
So Tony, what I'm going to do, you're having some really, really big time audio difficulties. I'm going to remove you, but you can come back in because sometimes that fixes the issue. So I'm not saying you can't come back in. I'm just the audio was I guess. Well, I didn't do it. I guess his internet isn't very good. But anyway, I don't quite necessarily agree with that because I think Ohio State has bigger. Well, I was about to say, I think Ohio State has bigger pull in the Big Ten than we realize, but actually that's not true. We the fact is we all know that Ohio State has big time pull in the Big Ten, and I just don't think they would allow it. I don't think that would be a good move for Cincinnati. What do you think, Joey? Like I think that would actually be bad for Cincinnati.
Yeah, and like you say, Ohio State, there's no way that they're going to let them come into the Big Ten. And I don't think the Big Ten would take them, not necessarily just because of the program size, but the fact that their base isn't very big. They don't have a huge fan base. I
actually got into an argument with the Cincinnati fan because of that.
Yeah, if you're talking about Ohio, everybody's Ohio State fans, and so they would add no media value whatsoever in Ohio in the Big Ten. None.
Yeah, that's why I was really thankful for the data that Tony Altimore sent to me about the fan base sizes in the Big 12. And when people look at Cincinnati, they say, "Oh man, they're in the Cincinnati metro area. You know, that's 2-3 million people right there. That's a bigger fan base than West Virginia right off the bat." But the problem is, only about 200,000 of those in there identify as Cincinnati football fans. And so I was having a back and forth with a Cincinnati fan in one of the comments on one of my previous videos. And he was like, "Well, there's more of us than you realize." I'm like, "Well, you need to identify. Like, if you're a Cincinnati Bearcat football fan, then identify that so we know that there's more of you than we realize, because that's what we go by." But from the data that he gathered, there's only about 200,000 to 300,000 identified Cincinnati Bearcat fans, which was the very, very bottom of the barrel for the Big 12 as far as fan base size. And so if you correlate that with their stadium, it actually makes sense, because their stadium holds 40,000, which is not that big, and they really don't have the room to expand on that. So that's why I do look at stadium size. I don't use it as the end all be all factor. But I do use it in correlation whenever I see fan base size, because if you're claiming to have a huge fan base and your stadium is only 40,000, I'm like, something is not quite adding up here. And from the time that I've started my YouTube channel, I've actually been trying to push the idea that West Virginia should actually expand to about a 70,000 seat stadium. I think West Virginia could support it. I think on the training side of our football stadium, if you just simply brought those stands that connect all the way down and then maybe bring the corners out from the top, kind of like what Iowa State did. I like how they did that. Something like that. Nothing ridiculous. I'm not asking for a 100,000 seat stadium. There's no way West Virginia could fill that on a consistent basis. But I think a 70,000 seat stadium, I think West Virginia could most definitely at least come close to capacity.
You brought up the stadium sessions. Can you hear me?
Hold on a second, Tony. Hold on one second, Tony. Hold on one second, Tony. Andre King, want to thank you for the $10. But I want to put this comment up on the screen here real quick, because I think this is true, what Sergeant Pickles says. Academics, especially the endowment and media market, are far bigger factors than it seems most are considering. And that's very true, because Media market and endowment. Yeah, you're right. But the academics are very true as well. I've noticed that the SEC has started making a shift towards taking more academically higher academic level teams. So they took Missouri over West Virginia in 2012, and now they just took Texas and Oklahoma, which are two pretty high academic schools. I think that they're trying to lean more towards academic level as well in the SEC. Sorry, Tony, go ahead.
And for me, you brought up stadium size, Golden Blue, dude. Why not? If the stadium is very small, why not have some of their games playing in the Bengals stadium, like the Hurricanes do with the Dolphin do with Hard Rock Stadium.
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially, if you could try it out, and then if you could, that would be a good measuring stick, actually. That's not a bad idea at all. You could have them try Paul Brown Stadium and see if they could, at least come close to filling that consistently. And if they can, then, maybe alternate home games between your home stadium and Paul Brown Stadium with the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not sure if the Bengals would be okay with that. And, there's, flipping the end zones and all that stuff. I don't know if the infrastructure for all that would be in place, but it's certainly an idea to at least see, how many they can bring out to watch a Bearcats football game. That's a good point, actually.
Yeah, and for me, it doesn't make sense. I understand why the SEC would want Clemson, but Florida State, being that is a state school where that school's struggling with funding now and stuff like that in general for sports, and the public schools here in Florida are struggling to get funding from the government, the governor's office and stuff, to keep programs like academic programs and staffing and stuff. So financially, I don't think Florida State is going to make a huge difference for the SEC. Do you guys agree? If they're
I 100% agree with you. I think the SEC should bring in Miami over Florida State. The big factor with Florida State getting the nod over Miami is Florida. Number one, Florida has been trying years and years and years to boycott having to schedule Miami. So, number one, they don't want to play them. I think that would be a great rivalry, but for whatever reason, since the Steve Spurrier days, University of Florida does not want to play Miami. So
that's
they've been
BS. That's BS. That for me, that's just scary.
Exactly, and I would agree with that. And that's why they want Florida State in over Miami, because they're birds of a feather as far as state-funded universities, and they have this hatred for Miami to where they don't even want to schedule them. I'm going to have to research it to find out the exact history, because there's got to be more to it than just generic hatred.
Actually, I have the history. They had remember the Sugar Bowl in the 90s or the early 2000s that they had, that they fought in Louisiana?
Yeah.
That was the issue. That's what caused that rift, that huge fight. We beat the crap out of them off the field, then we blew them out on the field. So we embarrassed them both off and on the field and stuff like that, and they're being salty about it. Do they even have that much? Does Florida even have that much pull to? Because Texas A&M didn't want Texas or Oklahoma, Texas, and they didn't get their vote. Does Florida have enough pull in the ACC to even vote against Miami? Is my question.
I don't know if they have enough pull to actually keep Miami out, but apparently they have enough pull to where it's being released that the first four that the SEC want is not included with Miami. However, there are contradicting reports, because I've also seen interviews and I've seen videos where Greg Sankey says he absolutely wants Miami because of the TV market, the recruiting potential down there in Miami. He thinks it's actually better than Florida State. So according to Greg Sankey, they would actually prefer Miami over Florida State. But I don't know how much pull Florida would have to keep that from happening.
Yeah, and realistically, let's be honest. I don't want to be going up to the Big Ten, to be honest. Like, if Miami ends up going to the Big Ten, I don't travel wise for fans, that's gonna be hellacious for fans who live down in Miami. Pay for tickets to go up to games in Ohio State or Michigan or something like that. If we end up going to the Big Ten, if the ACC doesn't want us and stuff.
Yeah. Hey, we appreciate you coming on, Tony. You're having really bad static difficulties. Same as what Joey used to have. So Joey definitely sympathizes with that. But we're going to rotate some people in and rotate some people out. But Tony brought in some great points. We still have VicTube on with, kind of an SEC perspective on things. If it came down to Florida State and Miami, who would you prefer?
Florida State or Miami? I don't know. I guess probably Florida State, probably, because Florida and Florida State already play each other. So, yeah.
See, that would be the counter argument that I would use. They already play each other. So if you bring in Miami, you would actually force Florida to play Miami every year as well. If Florida and Florida State keep playing out of conference, then I would say bring in Miami first. I'm not, and Florida State fans, I'm not saying don't let Florida State in. Not at all. I'm just saying I would prefer Miami over Florida State. I think right now, on this day, at this time, Miami has a stronger brand. They're doing much better in football. The one thing about Miami, though, is they have got to build their own stadium. They have got to build their own stadium, because what's really hurting them the most is playing in a pro football field. That is that's the one thing that's hurt them badly. I've talked about this many times, but I'm going to bring it up again. When Miami was in the Orange Bowl, that you did not want to play them in the Orange Bowl. That was a true home atmosphere. Whenever they switched to, I don't even know. I think it's Hard Rock now, but it was like Pro Player, Dolphin, Land Shark, a bunch of different names.
Yeah.
Now it's Hard Rock, and I do like the renovations. It does look unique now, but it's still not college football atmosphere. It's still a professional football stadium. So, first thing on the docket is build your own stadium. It doesn't have to be, a huge stadium, but I would say for Miami, I would say at least 70,000. If you can make it a good home atmosphere, you can bring back what it really felt like to be at the Orange Bowl. I mean, even as a West Virginia fan, when Miami was in the Big East, I looked at our schedule, and every other year, because it was home and away, and every year they played in Mountaineer Field, I'm like, we got a chance. And then every year we played in the Orange Bowl, no chance. I just hope we keep it close. That Orange Bowl was a true weapon for Miami. They do not have a home field advantage weapon like they used to. So that's the first thing on the dockets for Miami. That's just my opinion. It's probably not, but it should be.
Yeah. So anyway, I have a question about the ACC. So if the ACC adds a West Coast team like Washington or Oregon or Stanford, can they still call themselves the Atlantic Coast Conference?
Well, that falls under the same category as the Big Ten. No, I don't think they can call themselves the ACC. Well, maybe they can keep the moniker ACC, but change it, from, Atlantic Coast Conference to All Coast Conference, something like that. I don't know. Just change the moniker. Just like the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten should get rid of the number and just call themselves the Big Conference. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, so what makes no sense is that the Big Ten has 14 teams, so why don't they call themselves the Big 14?
I know. And whenever they gained one team, they had 11 teams at one point. I can't remember the timing. I think it was whenever I'd have to look it up, but they had 11, then they bumped to 12, but they never got rid of the Big 10. I think the number, just get rid of it. And if you think about it, that actually makes it sound even more compelling. The Big Conference, like not even really a specific label, just known as the Big Conference. I think that rolls off the tongue. I think it hits you harder. I like the Big Conference. I think that's what they need to switch over to.
Yeah.
ASAP.
Yeah. So one thing that I think was a smart of the Pac-12 was to change their number when they added more teams. Like they went from
Yeah,
the Pac-8 to the Pac-10 to the Pac-12. So
I would agree with that a lot because you have to. That's the one thing that didn't make sense with the Big Ten. I'm like, and they got kind of creative by putting a 1. I think it was in the G to make it look like it's the Big Ten, but we're being sneaky. It's the Big 11 or whatever.
the
But the
B1.
name was still the Big Ten. So yeah, I trust me, I agree with you on that one. Sorry, I'm actually in the middle of several conversations on my phone as well. But yeah, I would agree. Anybody else that wants to join the show? Joey, are you able to drop? Well, did I share the link to you?
Yeah, I
for
can
the
drop the link.
StreamYard?
I can drop the link.
Yeah, so drop that.
Yeah,
So
I got it.
anybody that wants to join
Um,
on StreamYard, that's how we're gonna start doing call-ins. We'll just do StreamYard. You don't have to show your face on camera. But before we put you on, just briefly show us that you're human and you're not trying to, do whatever, and then we'll put you on. So, yeah.
So I put the link in. I've also got a poll up, but should the ACC
Okay.
and PAC become one conference?
I actually missed the poll. What's the poll?
Should the ACC and the Pac-12 become one conference? That's what I asked. And yes,
The
right now it's
ACC and the
32%.
Pac-12. Yeah, I would, it all depends. I think 2 of those 3 need to merge. I don't know if it would be the Pac-12 and the ACC,
Yeah, I don't know
the
either.
Big 12 and the Pac-12, or the Big 12 and the ACC, but I do think that 2 of those 3 conferences should merge. I would agree with that. Now, from what I'm hearing, they want to make it even more loose.
I think the Pac-12 and the Big 12 would be more likely, but I know there's a lot of talk between the PAC and ACC. Well, so they say there is. Don't know that for sure, but so they say there is.
Yeah, and I did a video on this a while back. What I'm hearing is the ACC, they actually want it to be an even looser affiliation than what they're saying, because they don't want to really be a partner with the Pac-12 or really merge with the Pac-12. They just want certain teams from the Pac-12. So to me, it seems like they could be setting up the Pac-12 just like the Big Ten did. Remember, the alliance used to be the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Big 12. And so recently they announced this loose alliance. I'm like, the alliance was already there. So basically, you're just kicking out the Big Ten. So to me, that sounds like the ACC could be setting up the Pac-12 just like the Big Ten did. Because remember, the Big Ten stabbed them in the back by grabbing UCLA and USC. So could the ACC be doing the same things with the Pac-12? And
Big Ten broke the alliance.
Yeah, exactly. So
hi, everybody.
Why announce a loose alliance when it was already there? Basically, you're just kicking out the Big Ten because they stabbed the Pac-12 in the back.
Yep.
Hey, what's going on, Kenny?
All right, yes, I'm gonna go ahead and go now.
All right, bud. Good to see you.
Yeah, good talking to y'all.
You too, buddy.
How you doing, Kenny?
Hey, how are y'all doing? Hi, Joey, and hi, Golden Blue Dude.
What's going on, buddy?
Glad to finally be able to come on and talk with y'all.
Absolutely, man. What's on your mind?
Well, it's just all this conference realignment stuff. It's frustrating because you want your team to go and land somewhere and be safe and be able to be relevant, but at the same time make more money for your team to better fit whatever conference they're going into. But a lot of times here of late, you have conferences picking teams that sometimes really don't make sense. And so when you do that, sometimes teams are not happy, and they're only thing they're really moving for is the money and to make their program better.
That's exactly right. I think this actually is something that spills out of real life. One of the biggest fears of most everybody is the fear of the unknown. We all want to know what's coming. We all want to see what's coming. We all want to know what's going to happen. So for the teams that are already in the Big Ten and the SEC, you guys are fine. You don't have anything to worry about. It's all the teams that are in the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the ACC that have to worry, because we have no idea, what's going to happen to our conferences, if they're going to pick our team. That's why we make videos that give arguments for our team, because we want to give our arguments. Hey, this is why you should take our team, because we aren't in that conference yet. And the goal is to get to the SEC and the Big Ten, because everybody's thinking that they're going to split off. So fear of the unknown is probably the biggest thing that has people panicking as far as teams that are outside of the SEC and the Big Ten. Jeff Grimm, one of our great supporters, and when I say great, I mean great supporters here at Golden Blued. He sends me articles through Messenger. He keeps me up to date on some things. So I'm glad that he was able to join the show. What's going on, Jeff?
Hey, roll tide, buddy.
I hear you.
Hey, I do believe, though, when it comes down to it, I do think the ACC is going to outlive the Big 12.
You think the ACC is going to what?
Well, outlive the Big 12.
And what's your reasons for that?
Well, I love the Big 12. I really do. As you guys can see, I'm an old guy. I remember the Big 8 back in the 70s was a great conference. The problem is, with everything that the Big 12 has lost, they don't have any real blue bloods in that conference.
Great argument.
And the problem is West Virginia and Oklahoma State would bail in a heartbeat if the ACC contacted them.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm not hearing him, so I'm not knowing what's being said.
Oh, he was saying that he thinks that the ACC is going to outlive the Big 12 because the Big 12 doesn't have any remaining blue bloods, and that if the ACC contacted Oklahoma State and West Virginia, that they would bail on the Big 12. I guess that would depend on the grant of rights. A lot of this, people say that everything depends on Notre Dame. They're the next domino, and I do agree with that. But at the same time, I think another domino that could determine everything is if the SEC lawyers can find a way to void the grant of rights for the ACC. That would also change a lot of things, and it makes fans of teams that are in the ACC kind of nervous. If you're not the marquee brands like your Boston College, Syracuse, Georgia Tech, it makes them nervous. They actually want the grant of rights to stay in place because they're like, that's what keeps the conference intact. Without the grant of rights, everybody's going to leave. Not necessarily. The SEC could come in and pick off some big brands, and yes, it would hurt the ACC, no doubt about that. But at the same time, that's when the doors open to where NBC and Notre Dame can come in with a pretty competitive TV deal themselves, and you could pick off a lot of brands from the Big 12, and the ACC survives in that way. It would just be a new look ACC, just like a lot of things we're seeing.
But the only reason I would disagree with that is because the granted rights they have now, West Virginia and Oklahoma State would be making less money by making that move than it wouldn't be feasible for them.
You're right. You're absolutely right. With the current, that's why I said if the lawyers somehow figure out a way to void that, and maybe there was, I'm not going to call it a bidding war. I don't think the ACC is, that lucrative, but it could be interesting between NBC and ESPN because, ESPN, even though they want the SEC to be the end-all, be-all with the Big Ten, they don't want another company coming in and getting, a media rights deal with the ACC. So I do think there would be some bidding back and forth, but that all hinges on if the current grant of rights somehow got voided. Coach Joe with the $1.99 super chat, appreciate it. He says, "What is the best case scenario for Boise State?" Best case scenario for Boise State is get in the Big 12 ASAP.
Yep.
And it's actually that's why I'm saying Utah being hesitant, saying, I don't know if we want to do that. That's actually not bad news for Boise State. They can make up that fourth team with Colorado, Arizona, and Arizona State if Utah doesn't want to make the move right now. So best case for Boise State as of right now would be Utah saying thanks but no thanks for now, and then they bring in Boise State with Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State. That's the best case scenario for Boise State.
And Joey, I think you're old enough to remember when Ohio State, Notre Dame, when they left the first time, the first conference expansion, when they went to the Big Ten.
Which one was that?
Yeah, this is actually when all this conference expansion really started, when Big East come about.
So was that back when West Virginia was actually independent?
Yeah, see, that's the thing about it.
Yeah.
Virginia was independent. A lot of teams were independent, but they were still part of a conference. They weren't necessarily. It's kind of a screwed up situation. They were in the Eastern Conference, but they weren't in the Eastern Conference. It's a messed up thing. But anyway, that conference was pretty much run by teams like Providence and Rhode Island and Vanderbilt. Not Vanderbilt. I'm going to think of who it was. It was just some basketball teams. Penn State wanted to come in the Big East when West Virginia came in the Big East. Penn State wanted to, and the Big East said no because it was run by those basketball teams, pretty much. Penn State,
and then Penn State and West Virginia actually wanted to create their own league there for a minute. I don't think West Virginia is a good fit in the Big Ten. I don't think they're a good fit academically, culturally, traditionally. I don't think they're a good fit, but I do think they would have an ally in Penn State because West Virginia and Penn State have history. But I don't think that would be enough to get West Virginia in the Big Ten. If West Virginia wants any hope of being a part of that split, they got to get in the SEC. And they've been on the table already. The first conference realignment when the SEC wanted Texas A&M. Then it came down to Missouri or West Virginia, and it was a couple days before the SEC was about to actually literally send the invite to West Virginia, and the ESPN stepped in and said, no, we want the Kansas City TV market, send it to Missouri. So we've been on the table before, and me and Jeff have been talking, and they're on the table again. They're just not on the table in the first four. They're in the next four.
Right. I mean,
yeah, they're listed either fifth
the
or
most
sixth.
sense of all the scenarios is West Virginia in the SEC because they fit geographically. The travel would be less on them, except when you go down into Florida, but that's better than going to California.
Yeah. I'm gonna let Jess speak on what he was telling me with the first four and the next four real quick.
All right, right now the first four that the SEC is looking at, as most people know, is going to be North Carolina and Virginia, and Clemson and Florida State. The second group that I've been told in the Alabama sites and the SEC sites are, in no order, is West Virginia, Virginia Tech, possibly Miami if Florida can get by with that, and then also Oklahoma State.
And that jives with what we heard about Oklahoma State talking to the SEC as well.
Yeah.
Now, I do think, though, if the ACC would want to survive, I think their best bet is to get with the Big Ten and the SEC and say, look, we'll cut up our grant of rights. We know we're going to go away. Let the SEC grab 4 people. Let the Big Ten go to 20, and then let the ACC say, now, we're going to be the third conference, and they're going to take over the Big 12 and bring teams in. That, to me, is the only way the ACC is going to survive, because eventually the SEC will do like they did the Big 12 and just say, you know what? We're going to take North Carolina, Virginia, Clemson, and Florida State, and we'll hold on for 10 years. But you guys are going to die in the meantime.
Yeah, it's going to come down to the ACC and the Big 12. Pac-12 is dying. They're going to merge. with the Mountain West. They might be, hey, the Pac-12 might be able to keep their name, the Pac whatever, but they're not going to keep Power 5 status. That's not going to happen. And then it'll come down to the Big 12 and the ACC who can, who can pick off from who, and how does the ACC work around the grant of rights? Because if there's absolutely no way to work around those grant of rights, then that actually hurts the ACC because they can't add anybody. So what keeps the ACC together is also keeping them from allowing others to come in. So that might be the thing that actually hurts the ACC is the grant of rights. So just a wait and see game right now between the ACC and the Big 12. And you said the second four on the list for the SEC was Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Miami, and Virginia Tech. And, we saw news come out that Oklahoma State and the SEC were talking. So that actually makes sense. That maybe if one of the other teams on the first four is hesitant, Oklahoma State could be bumped up to one of the first four in. It would make sense. They already bring in Oklahoma. That's a great rivalry. Oklahoma State has a great market in the Big 12. They're top three when it comes to I think they're top three. They're either top three or top four when it comes to revenue in the Big 12. So that would be a great addition for the SEC. I think it makes sense.
See, and I think the team that holds everything, I know Notre Dame is the biggest one, and there's no doubt about that. But I think it's North Carolina, because I think North Carolina is academically fit to go to the Big Ten, but they're a Southern school that's been with the South, so I think they also fit with the SEC. But I think that's the team. Where do they end up? Do they go to the Big Ten?
Yeah.
I have a hard time with that.
Hey, Kenny, we're going to rotate you out real quick. You can jump back in. I'm rotating Uncle Lou real quick, but you can rotate back in here in a little bit. Okay, buddy?
All right, bud.
All right. Thanks for calling in, though. Appreciate it.
No problem.
I'm going to bring on not just any Uncle Lou, but the Uncle Lou.
Yeah, good morning. The SEC is not a charity or a soup kitchen, sir. But we're not taking West Virginia. I'm sorry. I don't know what Swam said or some random individual on Twitter, but multiple SEC presidents have stated over the weekend the SEC is not expanding beyond 16 until or unless the Big Ten goes to 20. So this is fun to talk about while there's no games, but West Virginia is not going to be running around with an SEC patch on their jersey. It's not happening.
Well, you're correct, definitely for this year and probably the next, 3-4 years. If the SEC does bring in West Virginia, it would be the next round of four. The first four is definitely Florida State, Clemson, Virginia, and North Carolina. And then if they expand to 24 after that, that's when West Virginia comes into play.
No.
But I don't know how long that would be or if things could change between now and then. But from what I'm hearing, as far as their actual list, they're on the second four, not the first four.
The West Virginia needs to be interested in strengthening the Big 12. That's what West Virginia needs to be doing, figuring out how to strengthen the Big 12 because they're not coming into the SEC. It's not happening.
Hey,
I would actually agree with that point if the Big 12 adds some teams on the east side. If the Big 12 keeps adding teams from the west side, then that just hurts your West Virginia's.
There's a better chance. There's a better chance that the SEC would go out and get Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and Arizona State than there is that they would get West Virginia. It's not happening.
Hey, Uncle Lou, on the last expansion, West Virginia actually was coming to the SEC before ESPN said no.
No.
Yeah. Trust me, I'm a huge SEC fan. I got a lot of people who know a lot.
Yeah, and I don't know anything about the SEC. I've never even seen a football game.
Well,
Hey, hold on, guys. Hold on, guys. Time out. Let me read a super chat real quick, and then I'll let you get back at it. All right. David, I'm guessing that's how you pronounce it, or Davad Z. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Says Iowa State to the SEC to smack. I don't know if I can finish this. I don't know. Iowa State to the SEC to smack the hell out of Alabama. What? Golden Blue Dude, I appreciate the content and coverage. Much respect. I mean, I appreciate you supporting the channel and the super chat, but that first part, Iowa State to the SEC to smack the hell out of Alabama. Not sure about that. Vandy Rose, another super chat, this time $10, says, I could live with a marriage of Pac-12 and Big 12. I would say that's on the table. We can name the divisions Pac-12 North, Big 12 East, etc. But being absorbed is like being captured. And walk downtown square naked. Being absorbed is like being captured and walking down the town square naked. I gotcha. Well, for West Virginia, I don't like merging straight up with the Pac-12 because our road travel is already brutal. That would just make it worse. If the best thing for West Virginia is to stay in the Big 12, and the Big 12 adds teams from the Pac-12 and the ACC, I'm fine with that. As long as you cover both sides and even it out on the west and the east side, I'm fine with that. Where I have issues is if they take teams from the Pac-12 and they stop, then, that hurts our schedule even more. So as long as they balance it out, I'm actually fine with that. All right, guys.
Well, the bigger these conferences get, you're just going to end up going back to divisions. So if the Big 12 and the Pac-12 merge, West Virginia isn't going to be playing Cal. They're going to be playing the 6 easternmost teams in the Big 12, and whoever the western teams are will be playing the other teams. You won't be traveling to Cal and Stanford.
Well, not every year, but I would say, you'd have probably a road game on the West Coast at least every other year, maybe every year, one, no more than one, but I would say at least every other year. My point is, it doesn't help travels. We need something that helps. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm over exaggerating, and it doesn't hurt our travels as much as what I'm thinking, but it certainly doesn't help. I want the Big 12 to do something that helps, bring some teams from the east side, and that would, most certainly help. I don't know who those teams would be. I'm thinking, we're not going to get a Clemson. We're not getting North Carolina, Virginia, or Florida State. I'm thinking.
No, you're going to have to get
Louisville. I love Louisville.
You're going to have to get App State, Coastal Carolina, Memphis. You're not getting.
Come on.
The Big 12. The Big 12 is not getting any big name brand Power 5 school to join. It's not going to. Who?
Hey, if the SEC can work their magical powers and void those grant of rights, that opens up everything. And I do think the Big 12 could. I'm not saying like the cream of the crop, but like good brands like
why do you think the SEC has some kind of magic wand that they can make the ACC TV deal go away?
I'm not saying they can. I'm saying if. I know they're working on it. I don't know if they can get around that because
they're not working on it. The SEC is not doing anything. This is just complete horseshit, dude. The SEC is not doing anything to try to void the ACC ESPN contract. That's just complete lie. That's all that is. It's been debunked by anybody with a brain over the last 4 days. You read this crap from a swimming magazine, dude. A swimming magazine.
No,
yes, you did.
And Fanside.
No. The only person to publish this story was that Braden Keith guy from Swim magazine. That's it.
Incorrect.
Anybody else that did a story on it referenced Swim magazine. You even did it. You put it up on your screen.
I did reference, but I also put, whenever people were asking if there were any other sources, Tar Heel Times, because I didn't screenshot it at the time, and
there aren't.
Noel Squad.
No, there aren't. It's just a lie. It's not true. The SEC can't and isn't doing anything to try to void ESPN's deal with the ACC. Why would ESPN want to void a contract they just signed? The contract is beneficial to ESPN. That's why the ACC teams hate it. It's bad for the ACC teams. It's great for ESPN because it's dirt cheap.
It's actually not that
ESPN wants
great
the biggest
for the
brands in the
ESPN.
SEC, though.
It is great for ESPN because they are paying way less than what it's worth.
Lou, listen, and this is why. And I mean, I'm not going to argue everything, but it is good for the ACC because it's not a lot of money, and I'll give you that. But where it's bad,
it's bad for the ACC.
Okay, now listen though. This is where it's bad for ESPN. Okay, you right now, you'll admit that Fox and ESPN are fighting. Fox is going for the Big Ten. and ESPN is for the SEC. Now, if ESPN can capture North Carolina, Clemson,
They
Florida
already
State-
have North Carolina and Clemson.
Listen. Okay, if they can capture them in the SEC, knowing that eventually there's going to be a breakaway, they do better with Clemson, North Carolina in the SEC than waiting for the Big Ten to make their move and gobble up teams, and those teams go to Fox.
So you're telling me that ESPN would rather pay Clemson $100 million a year to broadcast their games than they would pay them $40 million to broadcast their games?
In a way, yes, Uncle Lou.
No.
Because
Look, this
by
is not
doing that-
happening. The SEC has nothing to do with anything that's going on between the ACC network and ESPN. Nothing.
I'm not saying they are, but what I'm telling you.
But Golden Blue Man is. That's what we're talking about.
Okay, Uncle Lou, but what I'm telling you is ESPN right now would rather give Clemson $100 million and give NC State $100 million and void their contract with the ACC if it's going to die.
To speed up the break-off.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not disagreeing with a lot of what you're saying, Uncle Lou. I'm just saying that ESPN would be more beneficial getting rid of the ACC because without Clemson, North Carolina, Virginia, Florida State, it's a dead conference. Everybody knows that.
But it's not a dead
to
conference.
the end of the grant of rights, then you're having to wait longer before you split off from the NCAA. If you can figure out a way to get around from the grant of rights and void it and grab the big markets out of the ACC, you can split off with the Big Ten sooner.
What does that have to do with the SEC?
Okay, let me ask you one question, Uncle Lou. Why did ESPN go to Texas and Oklahoma and offer them $100 million a year to break away from a contract with the Big 12, which ESPN already had? It's the same thing. It's just a different conference.
Because ESPN, Fox has the contract with the Big 12, the big one.
Yeah.
ESPN is a minority shareholder.
You're right. Yeah.
ESPN has a minority stake in the Big 12 compared to Fox. So
I think this is about speeding up the big break-off because the end goal is to break off from the NCAA, create your own rules, create your own enforcements, create your own NIL, whatever. And if the SEC has to wait to the end of the grant of rights, that's another, 2035, 2036. If they can somehow void the grant of rights and get the big brands now, they could split off with the Big Ten sooner rather than later.
I don't understand how it works. The ACC owns the grant of rights.
Yes.
So if Clemson leaves the ACC today, they don't have to pay a dime. But the ACC, as a conference, gets every dime of TV money that Clemson makes, not Clemson and not whatever conference they go to. Correct. So what interest would the SEC have in getting Clemson when they're not going to make any money from it? The ACC is.
But here's the question, Uncle Lou. And I don't necessarily have the right answer because I don't know anybody who does. Maybe you can inform me, but the ACC's grant of rights is pretty solid. I'll give you that. And it's not up until 2036. I was told two different stories that if six teams leave, that voids it. And then I was told if 18 voids it.
I heard the 8, yeah.
It voids it. Now, I've also been told it takes $125 million to get out of it. I've ran the numbers, which isn't hard to do. It's $36 million a year times, you got 14 years, so that's just over $400 million. So I don't know the exact dollar amount to get out of it. But
the dollar amount to get out of it is whatever
got out of it. The dollar amount out of it, the more you got to pay out.
The dollar amount to get out of it is whatever the ACC says it is. Period.
Hold on a minute, because
it's not in the contract. It's not in the contract. If Florida State wants out of their ACC TV deal or Clemson or whoever else, how much they have to pay to the ACC is up to the ACC.
Okay, but then do we also do we go to court? And because of the precedents the
Probably.
ACC set that let Maryland out at 60% of what the ACC said, does that let these teams out at 60%?
Well,
Jeff,
I mean,
let
that
me
would
re-
be,
let me
yes.
read
I mean,
this.
that obviously
Let me
that
read
would
this
be up
super
to
chat real
whatever
quick
judge
from
had the
David
case.
Z
I mean,
again.
I
$5
can't
super
speculate
chat.
what would happen in a court case, but I mean, this is why Texas and
Excuse me, guys. I had to mute y'all real quick. I got to read this super chat real quick. Iowa State. This guy is really diehard Iowa State fan, I'm guessing. Iowa State was cheated by Alabama in the 2001 Independence Bowl. I don't even remember that. Jeff G should be able to speak on it. Long live the Big 12. Hope West Virginia stays forever. Some people love us being in the Big 12, and some people hate us being in the Big 12. Most interactions that I've had with Iowa State fans actually don't like us being in the Big 12. So as far as interactions that I've had, this particular Iowa State fan, I'm guessing he's Iowa State fan, is in the minority. But like other fan bases, like even Texas, even though they're leaving, they love the little mini rivalry that they built up with West Virginia. So I'd actually like to do a poll to all the Big 12 fan bases and get their feelings on West Virginia, because I've always felt like that West Virginia has been looked down as an outsider because, you know, we haven't been in the Big 12 very long, and we're not technically a Midwest team.
I think this guy's just a troll with some super chat money. But if it was as easy as going to court to get out of a TV deal, then what are Texas and Oklahoma waiting on?
I think Texas and Oklahoma just knows that it's going to be 2 years, and the SEC's not going to make the big money until 2024. That's when our money really goes up.
I didn't even think about
So,
that, because
let me
that
say something else
big
too.
TV renegotiation hasn't been finalized yet.
Let me say
Yeah, but they
something
would
too,
still
because
make more.
a lot
They
of
would still
people-
make more in the SEC than they would in the Big 12 immediately.
Right,
Go
but I
ahead,
don't think
hold on.
Hold on.
Go ahead, Joey.
Hold on. Listen. Does everybody remembers 2011, 2012? West Virginia left the Big East, went to the Big 12, and the Big East raised all kinds of hell. I mean, they sued the hell out of West Virginia University. And here's the only thing West Virginia did. They went to court and they said this right here: we didn't leave the Big East. The Big East left us. That contract in the ACC is only 4 pages long. There is absolutely no detail to it whatsoever. And so the only thing that them teams have to do is go to court and say, we didn't leave the ACC. The ACC left us, because everybody else is making $100 million a year, and we're stuck here making $35-40 million a year. That is the same principle that West Virginia left the Big East on, pretty much. And I think it would go over in court, and they would get out of the contract fairly easy.
Well, and since ESPN is a part of it, they might want to, be wanting to avoid any type of, besmirching of the name, whatever you want to call it, of ESPN, and just say, hey, let's just work around this and figure out what we can do to get around the grant of rights, because, they're part of the TV deal as well. But the grant of rights is just the ACC thing. So I do think ESPN would get involved if it came down to that.
The way you get around the grant of rights, if you're Clemson, is you write a big ass check. There is no other way. Whether you go to court or doing any other way, the end result is going to be Clemson writing a huge check to the ACC. It's just a matter of the amount.
Except for the magic number of 8. You get 8 teams to vote, or get it down to 8 teams and disband. That would be the other way.
I don't think there's anywhere for 8 teams to go. The SEC is not expanding. I'm just telling you, they're not. They're not taking anybody, regardless of any grant of rights or anything else. They're not expanding. And this is from the school presidents, not Swam, or a random account on Twitter. This is from the SEC school presidents.
Yeah, I think they're going to expanding this year, but I think in the future they're going to add more teams.
And you have to admit, Uncle Lou, if someone good came, they would expand.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just, all I can go off is what actual people who make the decisions say. That's all I can go off of.
But I mean, you also go with what Sankey said, and then 3 days later, Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC. I mean, they're all going to lie a little bit.
I just don't think anybody's getting out of the ACC anytime in the next couple of years. I just think the money is too prohibitive.
Well,
and you might be absolutely right on that, actually. You might be absolutely right. All I've been saying is they're trying to figure out a way around that. But they might not be able to figure out a way, and the ACC is stuck blessing. They don't lose anybody but also a curse. They can't gain anybody, and they're just stuck to 2036. That could.
The
most definitely happen.
ACC
I think-
is a legitimate conference football wise, as is. If Miami and Florida State, they don't even have to win national titles. If Miami and Florida State hadn't been in the toilet, if they could even get back to just winning 9 and 10 games a year and finishing in the top 10 or the top 15, there's enough big time football programs in the ACC to keep its head above, more than keep its head above water, I think.
Yeah,
So
think
back to
as
what
long-
y'all
as
were
long as
talking
they're-
about
as long
earlier.
as their commissioner doesn't renegotiate a terrible TV deal, yeah.
Well, he's gone.
Um,
That guy's gone.
Yeah. The new guy, Jim Phillips.
They got a new guy in there now.
Yeah, Jim
So
Phillips.
if the
and he seems like
Pac-12
he's smart.
in the Big 12 can figure something out with some type of merger or whatever, and some teams are going to have to just go away out there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not going to bother anybody if Washington State and Oregon State go away. It's just not. It's not even going to bother anybody in Oregon or Washington because they still have another team there.
Right.
But then you
David
can
V,
get the
another
four
super
conferences.
chat, $5 super chat. He's saying he actually was not trolling, no troll. Just stating facts that you SEC trolls won't answer. Okay. Big Clone fan, tired of hearing SEC nonsense. Love West Virginia in the Big 12. Awesome addition. I'm trying to figure out what the SEC trolls won't answer. Like what?
Well, I think he's mad that I wouldn't answer about the 2001 Independence Bowl.
Oh, do you remember that?
I
'Cause
do remember that. And
What's he talking about?
in the 2001 Independence Bowl, we played Iowa State. It came down to a field goal. We ended up
Right.
winning, and I don't remember. It was like 22-20, 21-18. I mean, it was like a 2-point game. There
Right.
was a couple bad calls in it, but it was both ways. Now,
I mean, you can make that argument for pretty much any game. I mean, the biggest argument that I gave for refs throwing a game would be Michigan State, but it is what it is. I mean, that's probably the biggest example that I can think of. But at the same time, Michigan still had opportunities after that touchdown was taken away from them. They still had opportunities, to win the football game. So I mean, that's always going to be used as an excuse, and I'm not going to get into all that.
If he's tired of hearing nonsense about the SEC, then maybe him or some school somewhere not in the SEC should try doing something about it. I mean, the SEC has won 80% of the national titles in the last 20 years. If you go all the way back to the start of the BCS era till now, the SEC has put 20 teams in national title games. The next closest conference has 8. So if you're tired of hearing SEC nonsense, do something about it. And by do something, I don't mean show up ranked in the top 10 in the preseason, and then we kick off in September and you can't win a friggin' game because you're Iowa
I see a
State.
lot of that happen to a lot of teams.
What happened to Iowa State? We had to hear about how great Iowa State was going to be. And then all they did all season long was put plastic plates out onto the field and take a giant dump in it for 4 quarters. They were friggin' terrible.
Well, and Uncle Lou, how good was Alabama in 2001? Was we like the 5th or 6th place team in the SEC at that time?
Yeah, pretty bad.
Yeah, that was pretty much the low point for Bama. I mean, they were bad back then.
I mean, it wasn't like we were a powerhouse back then.
Yeah. Christopher Morgan with a $10 super chat says, recently been watching your channel, Golden Blued, and just now joined. Appreciate that. I'm a Notre Dame grad fan with family also in, is that Ghent or how do you pronounce that, Joey? Is that Ghent or Ghent? Ghent, West Virginia? Ghent. That's what I thought. I didn't want to mess that up. Flat Top Lake, in terms of Notre Dame joining a conference, I would prefer the ACC over the Big Ten. I don't know. That all comes down to if the grant of rights thing. If the grant of rights is ironclad and they can't get around it, then they're not joining the ACC anytime soon. I know they have to join a conference before 2036. It's in their contract, but I don't know what the buyout for that would be. And whatever it would be, the Big Ten could probably match it. So that's a wait and see, because Notre Dame is a big domino. And what happens next will depend on what Notre Dame does and who opens their doors for expansion again. So,
I got to get out of here. Appreciate y'all having me on. Great debate. Sorry, I got a little loud and carried away. You know how I am. I just I get carried away.
Well,
And
thanks
shout
for
out
being
to
you,
you.
Lou.
Yeah, shout out to the college football QAnon. This is a great show, buddy. I'm gonna hang up and listen to the rest of the show.
See
All
you
right,
later.
thanks for joining us, buddy. Yeah, that's just Lou being Lou. You know, he's Lou.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, he did have a few good points in there that I didn't think about. So I'm actually glad that he
Hey,
came on and
let me say
said a
something.
few
Let me say
things.
something. Let me say something real quick about Lou, about Uncle Lou, because I see a lot of people in here, and I see, you know, Uncle Lou will say something about somebody, and some people take it personal. Don't do that. You know, Uncle Lou is just Uncle Lou. He's a good guy. Just don't take it so personal. You know, watch his show and support him. You know, he's said plenty of stuff about me and GBD. You don't take it personal. It's just trash talking and college football and having fun.
Yeah.
You know,
That's how
Lou's a great
you-
friend of mine. Lou's a great friend of mine and a great friend of Chris's as well. So, you know.
That's how you build
He's
chemistry.
just a Georgia fan. What do you expect? You know.
Yeah. They finally got
Right.
They finally. Hey, you think he was bad now? Remember what Lou was like before Georgia won a national championship? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
He was
Lou's
the number
friendly
one.
right now.
Yeah, he was the number
Really
one
friendly
baseball
right
fan
now.
in the nation. Yeah, y'all watching. Y'all listening to Friendly Lou. That was Friendly Lou right there.
Yeah. That's friendly,
But he
Lou.
did bring up some good points. I was like, man, I didn't even think about that. So I'm actually glad that he came on and said some stuff that actually gives me some ammo to look into for another video. You know, that's how I do things. When somebody comes in with an argument, I don't get all pissed off about, oh man, maybe I was wrong. You know, it's not about that. It's exploring different avenues. And he brought up some things where I can look into, and I think it'll make for a good video. So I think it was constructive criticism, and it's going to lead to a very good video, to be honest with you.
Well, and the problem is those grant of rights. That is just
That's the biggest.
nobody knows. I mean, I sent you the grant of rights.
Yep.
And it doesn't say how much it costs. It don't explain what it needs to explain to me.
All you can go by is how much they get paid and what year they would leave. So you times the amount that they would make, the amount that they would make, and let's say they leave this year, and we'll just round it up to 10 years. So how much is it? What, 36 a year?
Yep, 36.
So
A little over
you
36.
times that,
So,
yeah, you times that by 10. That's what, 360 million
yep.
per team. And then if you leave the next year, 36 drops off of that, and so on and so forth. Unless there's a clause, which I didn't see, where it's like, this is, if you want to do it the easy way, then here's the amount. It's all doing math in your head, depending on what year you leave and how much is left on the contract. You know, that's what the grant of rights comes down to. That's why me and Jeff were talking about the magic number. That's the only way that they might be able to get around it is, 8 is a magic number. You get 8 to vote to void it, and there's your case right there. I don't know how they would, or 8 to leave to where it's whittled down to 8, and then they decide to disband. So there's a whole bunch
because it seems like, let's say 400 million to make it easy is
right.
what it costs to get out. Now the SEC is going to pay, let's say, 100 million. And the ACC is only making, let's say, 40 million. So that's 60 million. So in half of the time, it'll pay for itself. But the problem is, which university has $400 million setting in an account to write that check? That's the problem.
Now, they could subsidize in negotiations and be like, hey, we'll pay this half, and then SEC, you pay this much. So maybe some teams are willing to do that. I don't know, because 400 million, there ain't no way. Now, maybe they can split it half and half, but still, I mean, 200 million, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And I know the SEC wants this split off to happen sooner than later, but I don't know if they're willing to shell out that, especially more than one team. We're not just talking about one team. We're talking about 4 to 8 teams, you know?
I look at it this way. Let's say North Carolina wants to go to the Big Ten. The Big Ten's offering $100 million. If they've got to pay $36 million a year of that to the ACC, it still leaves them $70 million. That's still more. It's still twice as much as they're getting in the ACC.
What about this? What this guy says? Christopher Morgan, $5 super chat. Appreciate you, bud. Says, that's why I say Notre Dame joins full-time on the ACC, which that is in their clause. If they join a conference before 2036, it has to be the ACC. And I don't know the penalties. But joins full on with the ACC without paying out, and then trying to help grow the ACC with the other top teams and keep big brands. And that's a good point, too, because we all know, and I know you're Notre Dame fans, so don't take offense to this, but Notre Dame has a big ego. It is what it is. It's always been that way. Notre Dame has a big ego. So if they can come in and be the reason the ACC stays alive, that's actually a pretty good incentive for Notre Dame to join the ACC full-time because, I mean, Notre Dame likes stuff like that. They like having the feather in their cap to where, we're the only independent team that can actually survive on our own. We're a national brand. So, to say that Notre Dame, let's say 20, 30 years from now, people are saying, yeah, you remember whenever the ACC was about to go under? Well, Notre Dame came in and saved the day. That very well could be enticing to Notre Dame.
But see, there you're running against the grant of rights again, because the
but Notre Dame just becomes a piece of the pie. Remember, we looked into that. There is no changing if they're added.
It can only bring in Notre Dame, because what the ACC needs to do is kick out a few teams that's holding them down, and you bring in a Notre Dame, you bring in a West Virginia, you bring in a Oklahoma State, you go to a Baylor, and now you have a legitimate conference with Notre Dame, Miami, Florida State, Clemson as blue bloods. You got almost as many blue bloods as the Big Ten.
Yeah, true.
Honestly, and I want to get some opinions from any Florida State fans, jump on, whatever, because this has been a big concern of mine for Florida State. I think it's not in the best interest for Florida State to go to SEC. Right now, they're in a rebuilding mode. If you dump them in a tank full of sharks right now, it's going to hurt more than help. I know they'd make a lot of money and recruiting would be great and all this other stuff, but right now is not the time for Florida State to make the jump to the SEC. Now, if Mike Norvell can get them back on the right track and they get to a bowl this year and then grow from that next year and sniff a 10-win season, then you can talk Florida State to the SEC. So I don't know what year they're thinking. And once again, everything we're talking about hits the wall. There's a wall called the grant of rights. Everything that we're talking about is going to hit that wall because that has to get figured out first. But assuming that gets figured out and Florida State joins the SEC, let's say 2023, right? They join the SEC in 2023. I don't know if that sets them back further or if it keeps them down longer. But to me, I don't think it would be the right move for them at this point in time, if that makes sense.
Now, the only thing that'll help them is they'll pick up a couple more recruits, and they'll be able to build their facilities faster. That's the only thing it's going to do. They're not going to win right away. I mean, they're getting thumped in the ACC. They won't even compete in the SEC East, which only has Georgia and possibly Kentucky and Florida once in a while.
Yeah, and well, for Florida State, and you look at Florida State's recruiting, it's actually decent. It's not like elite. Maybe by joining the SEC, it does get bumped into the elite, but they're not like, bottom 40 or out of the top. They're consistently top 20, top 25 recruiting classes. So I think the biggest advantages for Florida State would be facilities, but facilities take time to build. So they would be, kept down. And by the time they get to where facilities help, are they too far back to where it would take even longer to recover? Does that make sense?
Well, and you got a Florida State team that has probably the number 5 or 6 recruiting class in the SEC. So they got an SEC recruiting class playing the ACC.
Yep. And
struggled to go to a bowl.
And so you switch that SEC caliber recruiting class from ACC competition to SEC, that's going to hurt because you already have a decent SEC recruiting class. You're competing with the best of them, but you're not going up against opponents. You're going against ACC opponents. So y'all are kind of picking up when I'm throwing down on that one.
Like, I won't mention a name, but there's a YouTuber who's an Oklahoma fan, and I hope Oklahoma turns it around when they come to the SEC. We need them, but they're getting excited about 3-star recruits. 3-star recruits ain't going to do it in the SEC.
Yeah, that's our avenue. West Virginia, we get excited about high caliber 3-star recruits and then, have a coaching staff in place that can coach them up. But like an SEC, team, because of all the advantages, like, 3-star, okay. Like whenever I made the video about West Virginia getting that high caliber 3-star recruit out of the backyard of Georgia fans were like, okay. And to me, it was a big deal because Georgia thought it was just a given. They weren't really pursuing him hard. He wasn't on the top of the list, but they thought he was still going to commit for Georgia. So that's why it was a big thing for me. But the Georgia fans, they're like, well, congratulations. But, I mean, we weren't really pursuing him that hard, so don't know what to tell you. So if Florida State's bragging about stuff like that, they need to hold off on the SEC for a while.
Well, and that's what I said with Oklahoma. It's like, how are you proud of a 3-star?
Oklahoma.
That's not going to do it in the SEC.
See, that actually surprises me because Oklahoma actually recruits at a decent level. Like I'm surprised. That surprises me for sure.
If we get a big recruit like Rodney Gallagher that just committed to us,
that was a big one.
When we get a big commitment like that, generally it's because they visited Morgantown. Once they visit Morgantown, we pretty much got them locked. I mean, we've got facilities that are crazy. They're just super nice facilities. And so once they visit, they're locked. I figured for a long time Rodney Gallagher was projected to go to West Virginia. But I figured that he would end up at Notre Dame. But he committed to West Virginia. So
Notre Dame was very mad to not get him. So the one thing that I like about Neil Brown is he's locked down the borders of West Virginia. We've basically gotten the top recruits out of the state of West Virginia. Now, we lost the top of the top just this year, which was the first time under Neil Brown to Virginia Tech. But this kid grew up near Virginia Tech and just happened to move to West Virginia. So do you really count him or do you not? I don't know.
Right.
So he chose Virginia Tech. So he's locked down the borders of West Virginia. And now he's locking down, neighboring cities like Pittsburgh. This Gallagher guy, lower Pennsylvania and Pitt, Penn State, Notre Dame, all mad that they missed out on this guy. He's a top 100 recruit. So now that Neil Brown has the state of West Virginia locked down, he's trying to go out and lock down the city of Pittsburgh, the city of D.C., surrounding cities, and then he can move and focus on pipelines. Is that kind of what Nick Saban did at Alabama, lock down the state first and then cities and then nation?
Yeah, because if you notice, Julio Jones was probably his biggest first-time recruit. And that's a Bama boy. You got to take care of your state. And like if I was West Virginia, I would want to somehow get into Ohio.
Right.
Because you're close enough to Ohio. And Ohio don't get enough credit, but they got talent there.
Yep.
There's a lot of talent in Ohio State. So if you could get some of the Ohio kids, that would really help you too.
I think I would put Ohio in the top 5 as far as talent in states. I would go Florida, Texas, California, and then Ohio, and then the state. What state would be after that? I would definitely Georgia. There you go. That's very good. Yes, I agree. So I would say California, Texas, Florida, Ohio, and then Georgia would be my top 5 states if you want to recruit high caliber at. So that's why Georgia has great recruiting advantages because they can lock down the state. That's the top 5 state. Yep. Florida, any of those Florida schools, if they can lock down the borders of Florida, they can have a great advantage. That's why Ohio State, has the advantages that they have because the state of Ohio is top 5. And then USC with Lincoln Riley, if he can lock down the borders of Los Angeles, he won't have to recruit anywhere else. Like there's enough talent in the city of Los Angeles for USC. If he can lock that down, he won't have to go on a plane ride to visit recruits.
That's why Pete Carroll couldn't get beat.
Right.
He owned California. You wasn't going in and getting a player that he wanted. And what was it, 5 years that he hardly ever lost because he had all the recruits he needed and he just stayed home.
Exactly right. And that's why, after USC lost to Stanford, they were number 14 at the time. They had just started their horrific season, but they didn't know just how bad it was going to get. And they fired Clay Helton. And a lot of people were like, well, I know that was an upset and I know it was at home, but why did they fire him so early in the season? Well, it was because they saw that he can't even keep the talent of Los Angeles, not even a small percentage of it at USC. Like, I think you'll keep your job if you have success at USC and you can lock, I would say, half of the Los Angeles talent. I mean, it's super difficult to lock them all in, but if you can lock half of them in and have success at USC, you're going to have a long, long career at USC. Clay Helton couldn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, look at Alabama. We got Bryce Young. We got Tua. We went into California. We were taking their players.
Rated
and that's
them.
what kept us in national championships,
I have a lot of people asking me what Neil Brown needs to do this year. I think he has to go 8-4, and I think the same thing is true with Scott Frost too up at Nebraska. I think he has to go 8-4 as well to hold on.
I think Scott Frost. I think it's a little bit of a different situation because they've been really bad. West Virginia has been struggling under Neil Brown, but we've still gotten to 2 consecutive bowls, not up to our standards, but still bowls. For Scott Frost, not even a bowl. I mean, they've been bad. So I think bottom of the barrel, like must do for Scott Frost to keep his job is you have to get to a bowl. If it's 6-6, so be it. Show some major improvements on offense and defense and get to a bowl. That might buy you a couple of years. But if you don't get to a bowl, Scott Frost is done at Nebraska. For Neil Brown, I agree, 8-4. I thought about 7-5, but if we go 7-5, at first I was thinking, well, as long as we show massive improvement on offense. No, I mean, even so, we should show massive improvement on offense. The stuff we got in the offseason, offensive coordinator Graham Harrell and JT Daniels, like that should be a given. Not, well, yeah, we can go 7-5 if we show offensive. No, that should be a given. So, yes, Joey, I agree with you. West Virginia has to go 8-4 for Neil Brown to keep his job. That's the bottom line. And you know me, Joey. I've been going bat to bat for this guy over and over again because he's been recruiting at a good level at West Virginia. But you have to see it on the field. Year 4 is make or break, especially getting JT Daniels. It is make or break.
A lot of people that aren't West Virginia fans, so to say, think Neil Brown hasn't done a great job, but I'm gonna tell you, Neil Brown's done a fantastic job because the locker room was terrible. They didn't get along.
Yeah.
There was arguments. That's why we've had so many transfers. A lot different locker room now. I know. I've been there. I've seen it. These players like each other. They get along.
But would you agree it's a make or break here, though?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a make or break here for Neil Brown. It is because he'll lose the fan support. If he loses fan support, that's it. You know that in Morgantown, if you lose fan support, they're going to fire you. Dana Holgerson has lost fan support, so I just feel like he'll lose fan support.
Joey.
Yeah.
New subscriber alert. Gridiron Helmet says new subscriber and enjoying the live show. Appreciate that, buddy. Hope you continue to enjoy the content. That's what I've told everybody. It's one thing to get them. It's another thing to keep them. So hopefully you continue to enjoy the content. And at least my goal here isn't to be right or wrong all the time. That's not the goal. I get into it in the comment section with everybody. And they're like, oh, you've been wrong about this, I'm like, I'm just giving you my opinion. If I'm right or wrong, so be it. My objective is to be entertaining. So exactly. if I give you a break from reality and you're entertained, then I've done my job.
I would like to say one thing, though, about Nebraska.
Go ahead.
I do feel sorry for Nebraska because last year shows they lost, 7 games by less than a touchdown? That's just showing you.
And the one game that they didn't was to Ohio State by 9. So even the one game that they didn't lose by a touchdown or one possession was 9 points, only 1 point more.
Yeah, and so that shows you a culture that has went from being on top of the mountains from the 60s to the 90s to all of a sudden getting used to losing, and trying to take a school and, like West Virginia even, when you're down and you're down, it takes some getting used to winning again.
Yeah.
You know, you're so accustomed to losing that, you know, you lose the close games.
Well, the unique scenario for West Virginia, whenever Neil Brown came in, we had just come off an underachieving but talented team in 2018. We had NFL talent all over the field, but we once again underachieved under Dana Holgorsen. We went 8-4 in the regular season. So we were
2012.
Yeah, exactly. 2012 was worse, way worse.
Yeah,
we actually had way more NFL talent than 2018, and we went 7-5. We opened the season 5-0, went on the road, beat a top 10 Texas, got all the way up to number 5. People forget about that. In 2012, our first year in the Big 12, after we went on the road and beat Texas, West Virginia was up to number 5 in the polls. I was jacked. I was like, here we go again. Another great season. A great ball. We lose 5 in a row. 5 in a row. Because we stay on the road after the Texas win, and we just get throttled by Texas Tech on the road. Lose 5 in a row, win our last 2, and limp into a bowl. 7-5 in the regular season. So Holgorsen was good at getting talent, but he was bad at underachieving. I mean, he underachieved year after year after year. And then the one year where West Virginia was kind of iffy on talent, he actually had 10 wins. Go figure. I don't know.
I know it.
That team, I warned people going into the bowl.
So.
I warned people going into the bowl. Because we played Miami, an old Big East rival. Going into the bowl, this was before I had a YouTube channel, so this was just conversation with friends and family members. I was like, guys, we're gonna get mopped by Miami. Why would you say that? Why would you say that? We just had 10 wins. It looks like a pretty good team. I'm like, if you look at our schedule, the only 2 decent teams, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, that we played that year, we got mopped. And what happened? We went to the bowl, played Miami, and got mopped by the Canes. I think it was like 34-17, something like that. So I think that particular year was based more on the Big 12, taking a step back as a whole. You had 3 decent teams, West Virginia being the third, and then Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. And, of course, both those 2 teams smacked us around. We get to a bowl, and a mediocre Miami smacks us around. So I think the Big 12 as a whole had a down year, and West Virginia was able to capitalize.
So Mike 883, yeah, I'll answer your question there. We did lose to Kansas in 2012, if that's what you were asking.
No,
yes,
2013. 2013.
Was it 2013? Okay.
Yeah.
We've lost to Kansas once. Should not have lost to them, but we lost to them.
No. That was the year we went 4-9, but we still should not have lost to Kansas. We didn't have a good team, but Kansas was still horrific, and we didn't just lose; we got smashed. I think it was like by 20 points. That was total embarrassment for West Virginia, and that's when I realized we did not have a very good head coach, because even in a down year, you should not lose to Kansas. I mean, ask Texas last year; they had a down year, but still, you can't. If you're in the Big 12, you can't lose to Kansas. You just can't do it. So yeah, that's one of those things that's a no-no. So he accomplished. I just now thought about that. I didn't realize that early in his tenure at West Virginia, and it was his first head coaching job. So early in his head coaching career, he accomplished a no-no, losing to Kansas. If that doesn't ring a bell or wave the alarm flags, I don't know what does. A member of the channel, Lost Aggie 66, Charlie Anderson, says, why is 8-4 underachieving season? It's 4 games over 500%. Yes, but you gotta realize what you have. 8-4 is not underachieving if you don't have the talent and you weren't expecting to go 8-4. Like the 2019, if 2019's West Virginia would have went 8-4, that would have been like, what? That would have been overachieving. So it all relates to what's on the field. With the talent that we have and what we've done in the offseason, I would say 8-4 is slightly underachieving.
Well, I do think, though,
at minimum,
I do think with his name being Lost Aggie, he might be a Texas A&M fan.
You might be right.
I do believe if you pay your coach $9 million a year and you go 8-4.
Oh, man. I just got that. Holy crap. He was defending his 8-4 team from last year. Oh my dude, you set yourself up, man. You're a loyal supporter, man, but you set yourself up
Jeff,
for that one.
But Jeff, they beat Alabama.
Yeah, they beat Alabama. They got their Santa Claus.
Oh, and who predicted that, by the way?
Yeah,
that's right.
And
well,
you
guys,
go crazy back then too.
I'm about to wrap this up. I've had a good time, but my wife's about to get off work, so I got to help around the house a little bit, fix dinner, all that good stuff. But I had a great time. I hope everybody else had a great time. Special thanks to Kenny, Uncle Lou, Vic2. Who else was on here? Jeff, appreciate you, buddy.
Hey, great time.
Is that everybody? Did I miss anybody?
Hey, Patreon members. Patreon members,
oh,
if you want to talk a little bit of football. Patreon members, I want to talk a little bit of football. Maybe I'll go live over on Patreon page later on if you want to, and we'll talk a little bit of football.
Yeah, I'll go live.
Hey,
I don't have enough time.
Oh, okay.
What did you guys decide about poker?
It's something that I'm still going to do.
I'll leave that on Joey.
Yeah, it's something I'm still going to do.
Okay.
I've just been so busy, Jeff, that I haven't got time to work on it. But it is something that I'm going to do. Yeah.
All right, man. Just let me know. I'll be there.
All right, bud. Thank you, Jeff. I'll talk to you, buddy. See you, bud.
Take care, Jeff.
Joey, always a pleasure.
All right, I'm let you close it up.
And, all right, bud.
Adios.
Appreciate you. So yeah, I appreciate everybody that stopped by. I had a great time. Great show. All the guests, thank you for coming on. Uncle Lou is curious about poker. Yeah, we're gonna see what we can do about a private table for Golden. I'm not sure if it's Golden Blue subscribers or Patreons. I think it's just Patreons, but I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But we're gonna try to get a private table online and see how that works. Some people didn't like the idea, but some people really wanted the idea, so it kept it going. I'm leaving that one on Joey, and I'm not sure about real betting either. I'm not sure how that one goes. Well, it's going to be real betting. I'm not sure about real money, if that makes sense. There you go. But I'm going to let Joey figure that out. Anyways, guys, I got to get off here. I got some stuff to do, but I had to get my college football fix and talk to you guys. So thank you for supporting the channel. Everybody that super chatted. Can't remember everybody's names, but you know who you are. Appreciate you supporting the channel. Next live show, as far as scheduled, will be on Wednesday, but who knows? Maybe I get the itch tomorrow. Might do one tomorrow. We'll see. But the next scheduled is on Wednesday. But anyways, guys, y'all have a good rest of your day. Hopefully this broke up your Monday just enough to where it wasn't that bad. Keep on trucking and keep on supporting Golden Blued. Hopefully you continue to enjoy the content. I just do the best I can. That's all I can say. I do the best I can. All right, guys. Later.